Good morning, Bitcoin. Today is Sunday, May 31st, 2020. My name is Thomas Hunt, and this is the World Crypto Network. The price of Bitcoin was down 0.53% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 9,475, a high of 9,750, and a low of 9,402. That's $1 for 10,555 Satoshis. Volume is a little low, but it is a Sunday morning with 5,897 Bitcoins changing hands. The market continues to lean margin long, now with 83% of the market heading that direction. Bitcoin dominance is at 66%. Whitey on the Moon by Gil Scott Heron. A rat done bit my sister Nell, with Whitey on the moon. Her face and arms began to swell, and Whitey's on the moon. I can't pay no doctor bills, but Whitey's on the moon. 10 years from now I'll be paying still, while Whitey's on the moon. You know the man just upped my rent last night, 'cause Whitey's on the moon. No hot water, no toilets, no lights, but Whitey's on the moon. I wonder why he's upping me, 'cause Whitey's on the moon. Well, I was already giving him $50 a week, and now Whitey's on the moon. Taxes taking my whole damn check. The junkies make me a nervous wreck. The price of food is going up, and if all that crap wasn't enough, a rat done bit my sister Nell, with Whitey on the moon. Her face and arms began to swell, and Whitey's on the moon. With all that money I made last year, for Whitey on the moon. How come I ain't got no money here? Whitey's on the moon. You know I just about had my fill of Whitey on the moon. I think I'll send these doctor bills, airmail special, to Whitey on the moon. The Cranberries, Zombie. Another head hangs lowly, child is taken slowly, and the violence caused such silence. Who are we, mistaken? But you see, it's not me, it's not my family. In your head, they are fighting with their tanks and their bombs and their bombs and their guns. In your head, they are crying. In your head, zombie, zombie, zombie. Hey, hey, what's in your head? In your head, zombie, zombie. Hey, 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 oh. Another mother's breaking, heart is taking over. When the violence causes silence, we must be mistaken. It's the same old theme since 1916. In your head, they're still fighting with their tanks and their bombs and their bombs and their guns. In your head, they're dying. In your head, zombie, zombie, zombie. Hey, hey, what's in your head? What's in your head? Zombie, zombie, zombie. And now let's do the Bitcoin news. $10,000 bull trap? Why Bitcoin price is now likely to pull back. Because it goes up and down in like an Elliott wave, and it keeps going up and down, no matter what you want, up and down. Bitcoin price is up 25% for the month of May. But is a pullback now imminent? I don't know. Do you have a magic crystal ball that helps you time the markets? Maybe you do. JP Morgan, Bitcoin's biggest enemy, suddenly appears to be going all in on crypto. JP Morgan chief executive Jamie Dimon called Bitcoin a fraud in September 2017. Now, the bank has added its first crypto exchange customers, and Dimon is reportedly hosting secret meetings with the boss of major Bitcoin and crypto exchange, Coinbase. So there you go. JP Morgan may acquire Coinbase. Well, why wouldn't they? Somebody needs to. At least they could keep the servers up. McAfee backs down from wild Bitcoin $1 million price prediction. He now claims that his ambitious claim to eat his own cock was just absurdist humor. Too bad he gave multiple interviews over and over again claiming that it was real. You know what you do? You ignore McAfee as absurdist humor. He's just a fool. Samsung doubles down on Bitcoin and crypto. Gemini exchange integration revealed. Samsung, the South Korean smartphone giant, has been experimenting with Bitcoin for some time, is doubling down on the cryptocurrencies. Samsung's blockchain wallet will add support for users of US Bitcoin and crypto exchange Gemini in North America. Exciting. Kind of a press release, though. And the price. Coinbase welcomes high rollers. Goldman Sachs slams Bitcoin. That's a nice contrast, right? I like that. The Forbes article is still watching that video from 2014 where the internet pioneer claims that it's an obscure Japanese mathematician who was Satoshi Nakamoto. I remember that back in 2014. It's no more true now than it was then. Market wrap. Bitcoin slides. Stocks tread water on Trump-China comments. Yes, it didn't sound so good about ending the trade war in China. It sounded a lot more like starting a new Cold War with China. Doesn't that sound fun? Cameron Winklevoss savages old case against Bitcoin with an even older joke. What Larry Summers meant to say is that the tall half-billionaire is a lame, cheesy asshole. I don't know what's going on there. Very strange stuff. And, of course, the worst crisis in a century is setting the stage for Bitcoin, but you already knew that. The price of Bitcoin is down 0.77% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 9,455, a high of 9,750, and a low of 9,402. That's $1 for 10,576 Satoshis. Volume is pretty normal for a weekend with 5,916 Bitcoins changing hands. The market continues to lean margin long, with now 83% of the market headed that direction. Bitcoin dominance is at 66%. And now a brief respite before we do the horrible news. NASA, SpaceX to launch first astronauts to space station from the United States since 2011 and the end of the space shuttle program. Very exciting stuff from NASA and SpaceX. Magnificent liftoff. America. Right there you can see, boom, the SpaceX Dragon capsule attached to, I think it's called the Falcon 4, Falcon 5 rocket, something like that. Taking off from Florida there. Perfect takeoff. Perfect launch. Truly magnificent. The first time human beings have been launched into space from America since 2011. After the launch, they managed to catch the launch vehicle on the landing pad perfectly. Once again, magnificent technology and engineering from SpaceX. There's a view of the space station, the International Space Station. Mankind in space, living, working together, doing science. Truly the future. Everyone should be focused on this. We were all focused on it, it felt like, for a little bit there in the afternoon. The Dragon capsule, 60 meters away from the space station. And docking confirmed. The Dragon crew has arrived at the space station. Magnificent. Truly amazing. I poked a little fun at it today because it kind of perfectly lined up with, that Gil Scott-Heron song and that kind of feeling, of everything going to shit on Earth, but Whitey's on the moon. I can't pay my rent, but Whitey's on the moon. It was pretty accurate. Although this is magnificent. And this is like the happiest that you'll be today. This is the best. This is the good thing that happened yesterday. Maybe watch it just a little bit more. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so now I'm going to show some bad things. So everyone stand by. If you're not an adult and you don't like watching negative things, I give you the chance right now to run away. You don't have to watch this. Okay, so the first one is the worst one, and I don't think we're going to show it all. I don't know. I'm going to turn away. I don't know if I want to go full screen. Okay, so they're in Dallas, and this guy is a shopkeeper. He has a shop, and he tried to defend it from these other guys. Maybe we can just show it in like kind of some motion here. Okay, so as you can see, you can't see it. Okay, there we go, full screen. But maybe I'll just do it in motion this way. We don't have to watch the end. So there's these guys, and they're stomping him, right? And there's like 6, 10 of them, 15, and they're just throwing stuff, and they're just stomping this poor storekeeper guy for trying to defend his store. And by the end of the video, which is horrible, we don't want to see it. You can kind of see it there. I'm not going to go any further. He's kind of a crushed, humbled husk of a human being on the ground. Previously, they had said he was in critical condition. I don't know. He looked dead in the video. I don't want to show it again. It's not about YouTube or content strikes or copyright or any of those things. It's about true horror. And you can go to YouTube. I retweeted it. There's like options. I mean, it's out there. But just absolute true horror in Dallas as the rioters stomp this man to death for protecting his shop. So that was the worst thing you're going to see today. I'm sorry I didn't show more of it, or I'm glad I didn't show more of it. I don't know. It was horrible. This one is also horrible, but just seems a little less horrible because it's shot from far away, and it doesn't look like anyone was actually killed in this video. But this is really unbelievable. This is the New York Police Department in New York City. Trying to see this from the cops' perspective. They are certainly trapped. They have expensive police cars. It's a bummer to lose them and abandon them. But the simpler and better explanation in this situation would probably be to get out of the cop car and run. Right? It's not great. It's not macho. It's not strong. It's not a cop thing to do. But if you had the right kind of training, if you had the right kind of flexible mind, and you understood the situation you were in as well as the protest, you would get out and run, and you would abandon 1 or 2 of these really nice cop cars to let the protesters smash them. This is what the New York police did instead. And again, this is just as horrifying as the other video, and certainly of the original horrifying video of Curtis Floyd being killed. But it's from further away, and it just feels less graphic. Also, it's cars, it's machinery. It doesn't have quite the visceral realness of that horrible Dallas video of them beating that man to death on the street. So here we go. So clearly, Officer 1 is trapped. Officer 1 is in a bad position. There's way too many people. Oh, he's got a friend, Officer 2. You think he's going to help and make this situation better, but he does not. And then I'm going to stop doing commentary because it just gets horrible. That was your last day as a cop. That was it. You just lost your job for life. This is horrible. So you can see here, car number 2 thinks that it's making a path, starts to make a path. Kind of has some success, but is getting some slams right there. Unless you're willing to kill people, which again, the last time this happened in America, at least publicly, would be the Charlottesville riot when the Nazi drove his car over the woman, Heather Hauer, I think her name was, and she was killed. So the last time this happened, it was Nazis running over human beings. Now it's police officers running over human beings. And then car one just goes. You can see the people pushed back from the barricades. You can see car 2 continuing to push people out of the way. There's 1 or 2 people on the hood. You can see the entire tone change. And this is not going to make the riot shorter. Like, you think I'm watching this a lot? They're watching this a lot on the mainstream TV. Because this one isn't like the other one. The other one's freaking horrible. I can't show it over and over. This one, not just because it attacks the cops or whatever, but because it's machines and it's shot from above and it's much less human. If there was a closer shot of this with the men on the line there, it would be a lot harder to show. But you can see right here the NYPD just blasting right through the protesters. So 2 horrible videos, and then kind of a nice video. Here they are in Las Vegas. They're at the courthouse in downtown Las Vegas, and they were, first of all, they were rioting, whatever. They're smashing up windows of the courthouse, at least trying to. These seem like very strong bulletproof windows. But yeah, they're smashing windows. They're trying to ruin the courthouse. And then the strangest thing happens. This guy in a blue backpack starts walking around saying, stop. He's like, stop this. Don't do this. And he kind of chases him out of there. And then these other people kind of join in and they start waving flashlights at the crowd saying that you should go away. This is not how we do this here. This is our courthouse. This is our city. They're telling people to go home. And then this guy has a pretty powerful little speech here. Let's see if we can get that. Says you can't sit there. It's not safe. Not a good place. Get the fuck out of here! Y'all got me fucked up! That's not how you protest. I'm black. I've been protesting all my life. This is not how you protest. This is not protesting. What the fuck is wrong with y'all? There it is. That's not how you protest. He says that he's black. He's been protesting his whole life. This is not how you protest. That's not how you protest. I'm black. I've been protesting all my life. This is not how you protest. This is not protesting. What the fuck is wrong with y'all? Powerful video. It's not how you protest. What's wrong with you? And now we're going to try to do the news. Quite a lot happened. So we were enjoying the rocket launch, the SpaceX NASA rocket launch. Already, Austin was insane during the daytime. Cops are coming out in fleets, helicopters flying everywhere, protesters in the middle of I-35. We are witnessing history. And that was in Austin, just starting. History will not look fondly on those who fan the flames of hatred and racism, but it will also not look fondly on those who remain silent. Powerful words from Robert Reich. More excellent images of SpaceX and NASA. Meanwhile, there's been stories that the people in Minnesota who are protesting came from outside of Minnesota. This is an attempt to distract from the protesters and to claim that their claims are not legitimate, that because they could perhaps be from another state, which would just show that they had the dedication to the cause to drive to another state, or in another idea that they were paid provocateurs or whatever. But yes, in the middle of all this, let's see what old President Trump said. It's Antifa and the radical left. Don't lay the blame on others. So again, he's just trying to say that it's from out of state and out of group and it's not normal people, but we all have seen the numbers. We all know that it's normal people protesting. and a lot of locals from Minnesota. Certainly people from other places came, but otherwise, no. Let's see another great tweet here. Oh, it's the same thing with Antifa. But this time Stonekettle says, prove it. Again, you command the largest, most powerful, most well-funded information gathering system in the world. So prove your statement. Show your work. Not speculation from Lou Dobbs or Sean Hannity. Not some conspiracy from OANN. Proof. Show us your work. Prove it. Still no evidence. Still just empty claims. Doug Hurley and Bob Becken have closed their helmet visors and are ready to launch. Look at the capsule. Isn't it space age and futuristic? See those large cuts? Those are actually emergency thrusters that could be used to guide the ship. When they showed the inside, it was super futuristic and stuff too. They had touchscreen controls this time. Remember when space always seemed so far behind our technology? Our amazing technology's caught up to space. I don't usually dig these, but this one's really good. This is a comedian. She does a little act where she kind of she lip syncs to what Trump is saying. This one's really great. There's something about the way that she shows him saying the word African Americans that just really hits home. Here we go. President Trump's statement.
Yeah, but MAGA is Make America Great Again. By the way, they love African American people. They love black people. MAGA loves black people.
Isn't she great?
They love African American people. They love black people. MAGA loves black people. Yeah,
so MAGA loves black people, I guess, according to the president. They're ready to launch the ship. Meanwhile, last night in Las Vegas, 2 photojournalists were arrested while doing their jobs covering the protests. The police charged them with failure to disperse. One of them is still in jail this morning. So they're not doing that great a job here in Las Vegas. A lot of people are trying to celebrate them, but it's not that great. This week has seen the U.S. president join the likes of Bashar al-Assad and Rodrigo Duterte in repeatedly threatening to kill his own people. Dark look. Not a good look. Liftoff was slated for 3:22 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it went off without a hitch. It was great. 8 minutes to launch. We were all going to go to space. We're super excited. My brother and I thought this was funny. It's like a flat Earth cover-up. You can see right here the Earth looks very flat. You can see the straightness of that line if I zoom out even more. And then over here you can see they've corrected it with Photoshop. So here's the original flat Earth conspiracy. And then there's that darn curvy Earth they keep showing from all the other shots. So I don't know. Jokes. They caught the rocket. It was awesome. They had that funny thing, though, where the video cut out. I watched a whole video about that, and they have transmission errors from those little platforms just when the rockets get there. So the exact moment that you really want to see is the moment that doesn't transmit right. But they do record it, and they release them later. So we could probably watch a video of this thing landing perfectly later. American astronauts are in orbit on an American commercial vehicle. That's history. And it was the first time human beings have ever been launched into space by a private company. Pretty amazing. Former Vice President Joe Biden said, "Today, in lifting our ambitions and our imaginations to the heaven, the United States has once more reshaped the future of space travel." Good stuff. The Attorney General failed to acknowledge the white nationalists involved in the protests, as warned by every Minnesota official who has spoken today. These are likely the Black Bloc, or perhaps agent provocateurs, or perhaps just white nationalists who want to make the protest more violent and have it, rebound poorly on the people they don't like. Not mentioned, not talked about. We talked about it here. We showed you Umbrella Man. We showed you the other potential agent provocateurs with the white armbands around their arms. Previously, in protests long ago, they had caught one of these guys. They looked at his boots, and they said, hey, those are the same boots the police have. They looked at the rest of his gear. It was tactical. These are not protesters. These are different. Black organizers in Minneapolis had to confront white protesters and tell them to chill the fuck out. Totally agree. Got to do it. Chill out. Bill Barr was on TV saying that the violence and looting came from the far left Antifa without any evidence. No evidence. He took no questions. In fact, Minnesota government officials are saying that it is white supremacist and right-wing groups, according to investigations and evidence. So whereas the president and the disgraced, ridiculous clown of an attorney general say that it's far-left Antifa with no evidence, no facts, they pulled it. Where'd they get it? It was in their ass. They pulled it out of their ass. That's where they found it. Meanwhile, in the real world, where we have evidence and investigations, it seems a lot more likely that it's white supremacist and right-wing groups. The astronauts fist bumped when the first stage landed. Very cool. Fist bumps. We got more trouble in Las Vegas. Review Journal editor Glenn Cook writes, "It is appalling that Las Vegas police officers who have nothing to do with what happened in Minnesota would so forcefully take into custody two people who were obviously working photojournalists." And we've seen a lot of this in these last few nights, and I'm sure we'll see more of it tonight, where the police officers, perhaps because of temperament, perhaps because of bad training, perhaps because of frustration or just having a terrible job that they're tired of doing, the police officers seem to be using more violence and more brutality in these protests that are about violence and police brutality. Using more violence and more brutality is going to make the protests go on longer. It's going to make more people protest. So these police officers in Las Vegas, who I agree have nothing to do with Minnesota, they don't even know these guys, right? They're still harassing journalists, arresting photographers, beating up people who cross the street, and then laughing about it. So this problem is way bigger than just Minnesota. These riots, these protests are not going to end. It's just the same as controlling the virus, right? When we control the virus, at a certain point, it comes down to a case-by-case basis. You have it, you spread it to 15 people, we go interview those 15 people, we get them to stay home, they spread it to 10 other people, we go interview those people, we get them to stay home. It's the same thing, or the virus will spread. Just like this, every time a police officer shoots rubber bullets at a journalist, every time they pepper spray someone in the face, every time they arrest two photographers, every time they harass people that were just crossing the street, every time they beat up and knock over old people, which we'll be watching later, they make the riot go on longer. I don't know why people don't understand this. This is the same as the Iraq War and the Afghanistan War, where every time the U.S. bombed a building and killed civilians, everyone related to those civilians became radicalized as jihadis, and they'll fight us till the end. Because you killed their brother, because you killed their sister, because you killed their mother. And the whole time it made no sense what we're doing, and we're still in it. The Afghanistan War is the longest running war in American history. We're trapped in a quagmire just like Russia. Like, we laughed at the USSR and we sent in troops and spies and other things to help foil their conquest of Afghanistan. And now we're right in the same position. We're stuck in Iraq. We're stuck in Afghanistan. We're stuck in the COVID-19 virus. And now we're stuck in never-ending police brutality, racism, and violence on the streets. So I don't know why police officers in other cities want their cities to be destroyed like Minneapolis. They want to provoke the kind of events that we had there that started the whole country and now the whole world protesting and rioting. So I mean, I know there are good police officers, but these teams of bad ones celebrating and patting each other on the back, you really got them. Like that guy in Louisville that we showed yesterday who was out there shooting the press. And none of his boys were saying anything. You know, it's like you're on a working line with everybody and you're all building cars together. And all of a sudden, one of you walks 3 feet away from the line and starts shooting lug nuts at some unsuspecting woman who did nothing but do her job. Maybe she's an accountant. She's just working in the accountant's office and he's just shooting lug nuts at her, just throwing shit. That wouldn't happen at your job or my job. We'd say something. We'd stop them. We wouldn't allow that. But for some reason, these police think that it's okay. And every single time we get it on video and every single time it radicalizes hundreds or thousands of other people to not trust the police anymore, to not believe in them. And as we talked about yesterday with Scotland Yard and the founding of the police department, this is a community organization based on trust. This is not a military organization. Like, the police are there for our protection. We pay them. The official reason in a lot of the U.S. that we started having police departments and sheriffs, really, was to stop feuds. You'd have a family, the Hatfields and the McCoys, for example. He does something to them, they do something to you. You insult their daughter marries your cousin. I mean, all these things. And pretty soon you've got a family feud where people are killing each other and over again with no reason. And a lot of this, I mean, I'm talking about American cowboy culture here, but a lot of it lines up well with Islamic culture. They also have very serious feuds and disagreements amongst families, even within a family. Anger against a daughter, perhaps for sexual promiscuity or observed promiscuity or something, and they'll attack their own daughter. They'll stone them. So we have the police officers to stop feuds. This is actually society has grown. We've improved. We're like, those family people, it gets very serious. It gets very culty. It gets very serious. And they're like, yeah, we're just going to kill that other family till the end. And that's why we have police. As the editor continues, they posed no threat to law enforcement or public safety. They never should have been touched, let alone arrested and then booked in jail. The same thing of the arrest of the CNN journalist the other day. You wonder why they're doing this. Maybe they're trying to intimidate journalists, trying to get them to stop covering this. But I don't think that's going to work. As a journalist type person myself, that's only going to make them want to cover it more. They're only going to get out there and get in your face more. We're going to find out who these officers are who have been damaging people one by one, and they're going to lose their jobs, and they're not going to be able to work anymore, and people are going to know what they did, people in their community. Remember the officer who killed Curtis Floyd? Standing on his neck, sitting on his neck with his knee. His wife has already left him. Are you ready out there, officers? Are you ready to beat up some people? Your family needs to leave you. Your kids are going to leave you. They're going to know what you did. We're going to find out. George Floyd. I don't say his name right. George Floyd. Said protests in Washington, D.C. The cops were on the line right there. This was the U.S. Embassy in Berlin. Very nice to see international protests join the American protests. We had those shots yesterday of Tokyo. Tokyo was also protesting, joined in. We were watching some excellent videos last night. We're probably going to be watching them again tonight. We might do some commentary, but I don't know how much I can really add. I'm certainly not going to be there. I'm staying inside. But check out Woke on Twitch, twitch.tv/woke, W-O-K-E. He, or perhaps she, has been doing some great stuff. They've got kind of a 9-box of local and individual feeds, Facebook, Twitter video, Periscope, all these things all mixed together. And they were constantly updating it and really providing us with excellent information, maybe too much information, watching a 9-box of riots on one screen, watching another screen full of riots. Another great channel worth checking out is Smoke and Scan. Seems like this guy's been doing this long before this riot, but he has a little hobby he's into. He's got police scanners, and he likes to smoke, and he just sits there and watches the thing. What's nice about his channel is because he's listening to the scanners, he knows what the police are going to do before it happens. So he'll say something like, oh, they're going to button it up. They're going to move down the street. And then a second later, you'll see the protesters take off running. And the commentary proves true as the police do what they say on their scanners. So there's a little potential entertainment for you tonight. Woke on Twitch and Smoke and Scan on YouTube. Oh, that's a Dallas video again. I'm not going to play it. I skipped by it. Just again, description. A man was stomped in the street in Dallas trying to protect his shop, and the entire internet is watching it now on loop. And I don't want to contribute to this, but at the same time, it was newsworthy. I felt it had to be shared, and so I shared it. So I wrote on it, not good to watch, do not watch twice. I'm sorry for sharing this. So I hope that you didn't watch it twice because it was awful. Here's protesters breaking into the Reno City Hall in northern Nevada here, up in old Reno. And again, just doesn't make any sense. They're just going to have to fix that. They're going to charge you tax money to fix that. This is going to come out of your end. So I don't really know what the purpose of breaking all this stuff is to, but they're into it. In Ferguson, Missouri, I think it is, someone tried to set the police station on fire. At least that's what they said. It looks like it's a box of fireworks right there in the street, and they're throwing stuff at the police station. Looks like a nice new police station. Again, the rebuilding cost is going to come out of your tax money and all these things, but it's the anger. They can't control the anger. On the Las Vegas stream, they said that things were getting out of hand, that they were attacked by the police for no reason, and they expect things to get further out of hand. Looks like the police did eventually push them back. As Tom Hartman writes, looks like Trump finally got his American carnage. Or did he make it? 100,000 dead, and now people in the streets nationwide. Soon to be followed by more COVID, poverty, and another $374 billion to his friends among American billionaires. Think he's happy yet? There's the New York City video we showed a couple of times. It's easier to watch because it's from so far away and it's with machines. But there are at least a dozen, maybe 2-3 dozen people potentially injured here. We can see the ones at the barricade here talking to the police car, shouting. Then down here he comes in, starts to push them out. And the other one just slams on it. Just like, what kind of decision process goes in there? Like, I mean, you're a trained police officer. You're supposed to be able to handle moments of pressure, right? And clearly this is a moment of pressure. But the decision to just jolt forward, and yes, I guess you saw the one officer do it, so you figure that's okay. And you're like, I'll just slam it. And just awful. What did you think was going to happen? And again, this is going to go to trial. And we're going to see this guy being interviewed, and he's going to cry, and he's going to say, I didn't want to do it. And, oh, I love people and all this stuff. But the reality is all that training, all that money that went into training this officer led him to the point of conflict right here. This was the moment of his life. And sure, he was badly led by the other officer. But still, what you said is that your police car, the value of your police car, it's got a shotgun, it's got a radio, it's got a computer, it's like a nice car, you know, that value is greater than all these lives in the street. And if your job as a police officer, your first job is to protect these lives in the street. Your first job is not protect the property of the police department. Like tomorrow, do you think we're going to be saying, gosh, you know, they burned up 2 of those Ford Explorers, whatever they are. Whoa, how sad. Like, I really miss those Ford Explorers. No, we're going to be saying we miss these human beings right here. Right here. These human beings that you knocked over on the ground. That's what we're going to be saying. No one cares about your stupid police cars. Here's what you do. You grab the shotgun. You grab the little radio, or you grab your files or whatever you got. You get out of the car and you run. You let them have the car. And you train your people. You train your people. Hey, if you're in a bad situation against American rioters, the people you're supposed to protect, don't run them over with a car. It's not acceptable. The headquarters of the Daughters of the Confederacy, I almost threw up in my mouth, is on fire in Virginia. I don't think we care very much about that. Meanwhile, President Trump didn't put out any messages during the riots. He didn't attempt to calm the people. He didn't even ask the people to go home. or just ask them to obey the curfew or any kind of positive message. But Vice President Joe Biden put out a positive message. He said, "We are a nation in pain, but we must not allow this pain to destroy us. We are a nation enraged, but we cannot allow our rage to consume us. We are a nation exhausted, but we will not allow our exhaustion to defeat us." It's presidential. It's what you're supposed to do. This is very strange. The police were shooting non-lethal rounds at people who were standing on their porches in Minneapolis.
Get inside! Get in your house now! Let's go! Light them up! Go inside now! Get in the house!
Get in, get in, get in, get in, get in, get in. Get in.
Oh, God, that hurt.
You good? Are you okay?
Right on the fucking crotch.
Are you okay? You got hit?
I'm good.
Here we go. American citizens standing on their porch. Light them up. Who thinks that it's a good idea to be all light them up, right? You're a police officer. You're supposed to be trained. This is not like a fun, hey, this is the gang. I remember last night with the gang, we were just walking through the streets shooting at people. That's what like gangs of teenagers and children do, right? That's what hoodlums do. This is the action of hoodlums. Light them up. These are who you're supposed to protect. These are the people that pay your salary. And once again, Michigan police officer, not only just the guys that are shooting, but the guys who are in command of this. Who's in command of this battalion right here? You just lost your job. This is insane.
Let's go! Light them up! Go inside now! Get in the house!
Get in, get in, get in, get in, get in, get in.
This is in America. You know what would have worked better? If someone had walked up to them like human beings and said, "Please go inside. Curfew is under effect. Thank you." Like a human being, like a human being would. Again, this is America. This is peacetime. These are police officers. I agree they're dressed like Nazi stormtroopers, and that certainly gives them some of their power, is that, you put on this armor and stuff. You think you're a soldier. You think you're unbeatable, right? There are tons of holes in this armor. But you think you're unbeatable and you want to just light them up. Light them up on a porch in America, in Minneapolis. Just standing there. I want to hear him say it again.
Light them up!
Light them up!
Light them up!
That's military talk. That's what you do when you shoot at opponents, right? You get out your machine gun and you're on the trenches and you're fighting other soldiers. Light them up. Talk, 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 talk. Light them up like it's a movie, man. You're shooting at civilians on the porch. You are the weakest, saddest human beings I've ever seen. All of you are guilty. All of you in this group, all of you police, when one of your fellow officers shoots randomly at unarmed civilians, all of you lose. No one trusts you anymore. We talked yesterday about how Scotland Yard, the world's first police department, founded in something like 1829, was built on trust. Trust amid the community, right? The community trusted you to bring you in to try to solve their problems rather than just trying to solve their problems on their own. And they didn't trust you, and they didn't invite you into your community so that you could march through the streets in full military gear. And yes, I know these people aren't supposed to be out on the porch, right? They're violating curfew. But they probably want to see what the hell is this military unit walking down the streets doing. And if you had any kind of leadership, this is a complete failure of human beings, of leadership. This isn't even a crisis situation. The shot we showed of the police officer in New York City who decided to run over the people he's paid to protect, that at least was a crisis. He was under assault, right? The vehicle, the all-important police vehicle that we must protect above all other things, the value of our gear. These guys are just walking by. And you know what you could do instead of lighting them up? You could go walk over and talk to these people. You're not in that much of a hurry. What you're doing is not that important. Instead, you leave behind this video that will last forever. Everyone knows in Minneapolis, if you stand on your porch during curfew, they're going to light them up.
Light them up. Go inside now. Get in the house.
Get in, get in, get in, get in, get in, get in. Get in.
Oh, God, that hurt. You good?
Are you okay?
Right on the fucking crotch.
Are you okay? You got hit?
I'm good. They're fucked for that, dude. What?
Okay. Oh, there's more.
This is a good idea to give them the army vehicles and the army equipment and the guns and everything, but then not to train them. Or to train them the same way you train the army people. Just shoot at people randomly. Light them up. Light them up. Meanwhile, in Flint, Michigan, this is a much better scene from a much better police officer. Here's a man showing leadership. Here's a man exemplary, carrying out the proper duties of his job, protecting his people. Watch what the sheriff did in Flint, Michigan. He's the one in the right here with the shirt that says sheriff. Walk with us. All right, come on, let's go. Look at this guy. Surrounded by the protesters who are a little afraid of him and still filming because, you know, you could get shot at any moment with this kind of thing. Look, they put their arm around him. They're not afraid of him. He's not afraid of them. They're patting him on the back. See, that guy says he appreciates it. They want to say nice things to him. And the sheriff walks with the people. Who's going to mess with these people? No one's going to mess with them now. What are they going to smash? They're not going to smash anything. They're going to go protest together because even the officer knows what the officers in Michigan did are wrong. Or the officers in Minnesota, I'm sorry. The officers in Minnesota, what they did was wrong. He walks with them peacefully. And this guy appreciates, says, thank you, man. Like, I appreciate this. These are, you know, positive pats on the back here. This video that's being shot now, this could have been real bad video. This turned out to be positive video. The guy said, yeah, I'll walk with you. I'm going to protest with you. Like, I'm not going to break anything or anything like that. I'm going to protest properly. So there are alternatives. There are good cops. There are good sheriffs out there. But their reputation and their ability to act as police is completely destroyed every time one of these guys gets mad. And I know it's emotion and they get out of control and they're not really military trained, even though they have the weapons and stuff. But every time someone gets mad and does something stupid, it destroys the excellent work that this guy's doing. As Kaboom says, this is the kind of policing that ends this shit. No riot gear, no riots. And he agrees. He knows that community policing is hard to implement in cities as big as LA or New York, but it's really needed. We need to have these people who can empathize, people who don't just want to shoot Americans, people who understand that policing is about the community. It's about the community that you serve. And if the community doesn't trust you to police them anymore, you failed. And no one's going to trust you. No one's going to report anything. In Seattle, this is actually kind of a positive thing. Again, we're trying to get you any kind of something that's good out there on these tough days. Here's an arrest in Seattle. It's going pretty normal. Let's see what happened in my video. There it is. So the officer has his knee on the guy's neck. He looks like he's in serious pain. There's 2 officers on him. They clearly have him under control. His partner moves the knee off the neck. Look at that. This is somebody who learned. This is, and again, it doesn't need to be the protesters or someone else running in, although I do think that's a good option and something you now have to consider is sacrificing your own freedom to save someone else's life is a worthy sacrifice. But look right here. The officer moves his knee, says, no, 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 not this time. And again, that's all it takes right here. If this happened in Minnesota a few days ago, we wouldn't be talking about this, right? This right here, this guy making a good decision. He's watched the video. He knows what to do. He's not, being rude to his partner here. His partner's probably not going to go on disciplinary review for this. He's not going to lose his job or whatever. He's not being completely brutal. He's kind of doing what he's trained here. And then the guy says, no, no, not on the neck. And then it looks like you hurt him on the back. Like a lot of weight shifted to the back and the guy's not happy and shit. But he's not going to be suffocated like the other man, like Mr. Floyd was, like Gavin Floyd. Curtis Floyd is his name. Curtis. So that was kind of a good video. That was from Seattle. Watching these scenes of police trampling protesters with horses, shooting journalists with rubber bullets at close range, one gets the impression that the police see these people as enemy combatants, not fellow citizens in their care. And if you want to know why this is going to keep lasting and why this is going to last much longer, and I don't know how long this is going to last, at least a week, maybe more, it's because of the actions by the police. They have completely failed. Some are okay. That guy in Flint, Michigan was all right. That guy in Seattle did the right thing. And some are good, I'm sure. But the masses, the ones we've seen, the ones that are shooting journalists, beating up innocent people, they failed. They failed, all of them. And again, I'm a law-abiding citizen. I don't break the laws. You know, I speed a little, all that kind of thing. But no, I mean, no, I can't respect them now. You can't trust them now. If you had a problem, would you call the police? Even me, goofy white guy and all that. I'm not going to call the police. Would you? And especially since you know that they're probably going to kill whoever it is. Let's say there were like some kids hanging out at the park, spraying graffiti or something. I wouldn't call the police on them. They might be killed. I can't take that possibility. And that's something that the police did to themselves just last night. Of course, meanwhile, President Trump was urging the officers not to be too nice with suspects. Again, these are American citizens. These are human beings. He says, don't be too nice to them. And good on them. The police are criticizing Trump for urging officers not to be too nice. The police themselves know that this is in no one's interest. What kind of a maniac president urges officers not to be too nice with the people who elected him, the American people, whether they voted for him or not? They voted in the election. They're Democrat, they're democracy. They're, people, Republicans, Democrats of the street, in the old word. How could you say this? How could you do this? How could you have so much hate for your fellow people? Even people that voted for Trump. I don't hate them enough to say that officers should not be too nice to them. It's nonsense. It's unbelievable. Here's a good moment from CNN. We're just going to go ahead and carry it in full for the commentary purposes. Fair use. Not that YouTube cares, but I still believe in fair use. Here's a good speech from YouTube, from CNN. Oh, come on, Twitter video. Most inconsistent video playing device on the planet is Twitter video. And they don't even try to play ads. Imagine if they tried to play ads.
What I gotta say to the...
There we go, one more time.
This is what I gotta say to the people who are destroying things. If you really feel like you have to take an opportunity, like if you're going to be an opportunistic, something is wrong with you. If you cannot stand up and fight the good fight and you want to be a cheater and go ahead and taint what we're trying to do, something is wrong with you. Because what we're trying to do is stand up for the basic rights of humanity. And that's what we're trying to do, and we're trying to do it in a peaceful way. We do not want to go through this anymore. Okay? I want to be able to go in a white neighborhood and feel safe. I want to be able, when a cop is driving behind me, I don't have to clench and be tense, okay? I want to be able just to be free and not have to think about every step I take. Because at the end of the day, being black is a crime. At the end of the day, being born black is a crime to them. And I don't understand why. Because we're all humans. And that's sickening.
Tell them, brother. Tell them.
Be careful. I gotta go, man.
So,
be careful.
No, please.
This is what I gotta say to the...
That was just beautiful. That was a beautiful sentiment, a beautiful speech. It's pretty short. Maybe we'll watch it again.
This is what I gotta say to the people who
So
are destroying things. If you really feel like you have to take an opportunity, like if you're going to be an opportunistic, something is wrong with you. If you cannot stand up and fight the good fight and you want to be a cheater and go ahead and taint what we're trying to do, something is wrong with you. Because what we're trying to do is stand up for the basic rights of humanity. And that's what we're trying to do, and we're trying to do it in a peaceful way. We do not want to go through this anymore. okay? I want to be able to go in a white neighborhood and feel safe. I want to be able, when a cop is driving behind me, I don't have to clench and be tense, okay? I want to be able just to be free and not have to think about every step I take. Because at the end of the day, being black is a crime. At the end of the day, being born black is a crime to them. And I don't understand why, because we're all humans, and that's sickening.
That was just a beautiful, beautiful sentiment. In another time, I'm most certain the reporter would have hugged him. Stupid virus and all that. I want to hug him. I want to give him a pat on the back. This is a beautiful thing to say. And also, what an example of empathy. And while I certainly, I can't claim to be a black person or anything like that. I'm a white guy, all that, Colbert and everything, the jokes. But no, I mean, the empathy, you have to understand what it's like to live in this guy's shoes and to live in many, many people like this, their shoes. And that, when he goes into a store, he's harassed. When he sees cops behind him, he gets nervous. Being born black is a crime. And I don't know why either. And, we've had the problems in the past and all that, and it didn't go away. And every time, I've read about, the Civil War and Reconstruction, and there were actually, it was an amazing time, Reconstruction. There was actually African-American senators and representatives in, 1860, 1870, like Reconstruction. Then they had radical Reconstruction. It swung back the other way. They installed the Jim Crow laws, separate but equal, which, as we know from the Supreme Court decision, that separate is not equal, and that was not acceptable, and nor was it when it launched the Dred Scott case. But then we existed under that system for a long time. Then in the 60s, Martin Luther King, John F. Kennedy, Malcolm X, several of the other protest leaders, the civil rights movement, eventually signed by LBJ. Like, we come a long way with this, but we're still pretty much where we are. Like, the things about the shops don't change. There's a strange story. It's a Howard Stern story, so I'm going to relate it. Gary Delabate, who he works for Howard Stern. He's his producer. He used to work, long time ago in the 60s or 70s when he was a kid in a clothing shop, and they had a button when, bad people they didn't like would come in, and I think Gary called it, I'm going to say a bad word or something. Gary called it like a shwoogie button or something like that. I don't know. It's some kind of negative word, of course, referring to African-American people. And when the guys would come in, they'd push that button, and the shopkeeper told the two associates to follow the guy around, in the shop. And that was years ago. And I'm sure it still happens today. And just what a powerful thing for him to express. And I wish we could hear it more. And I wish this was broadcast over and over again. I don't know that this is the clip of the day, but I would say this one here is really strong and powerful. And I also like the one that I played in Las Vegas, where the guy says, "This is not how you protest." I've been protesting my whole life, because of this thing, and it's not how you protest. Just destroying your own stuff. So, really powerful moment there on CNN. Great stuff. We don't have a protest problem. We have a policing problem. Insightful thread on conditions in Minneapolis with parallels to other city. As the person says here, maybe we'll read the thread. Let's see what's going on if I can. Oh, YouTube. Come on, YouTube. I want to open in a new window so I don't lose my whole thread here. Minneapolis police do not appear to be under the command or control of our mayor or our excellent police chief. So it seems a lot of cops have decided to stop doing their jobs until their notorious union chief, Bob Kroll, tells them to come back to work. That union chief was spotted wearing a Trump T-shirt and was selling a Trump T-shirt on the union's website. So he seems a bit biased. Ever since George Floyd was murdered, the police response to peaceful protest has been to wildly escalate the situation with tear gas and rubber bullets. Watch as looters, a very different group from the protesters, move in, vanish, and let the chaos reign. Their strategy seems to be either we get to kill black men when we feel like it with no criticism from you people, or you don't get any law enforcement at all. Nice little city you got there. Pity if something happens to it. Do you miss us yet? For context, the Minneapolis police force is overwhelmingly white and male. 92% of them live in the suburbs, often the far suburbs. Their union chief, Bob Kroll, is a huge Trump supporter and open white supremacist. That is not okay. Open white supremacist? I'd heard about this. I'd heard that at the KKK meetings, they don't even bother to wear hoods anymore because Trump has normalized racism so much that these people believe that they don't have to protect their identities anymore, that what they're doing is okay. But I didn't know that we had police union chiefs that were open white supremacists. Really? In short, a big subset of our police department looks and acts like they were recruited directly from a Trump rally. They literally seem to hate this progressive city and most of our residents, and they especially hate black people. We all live in our own little bubble. The police have been killing unarmed black men in Minneapolis for years and getting away with it. Their first account of George Floyd's death was to announce that he had a medical issue while being arrested. And alas, died. The police didn't mention the whole neon neck thingy, so they seemed caught off guard by the cell phone video and then the public response to it. They were furious that the 4 officers involved with killing George Floyd were immediately fired because this rarely happens. The police were furious that they were being directly criticized by the mayor and governor, both Democrats, which rarely happens. They've been furious at the protests. So the cops have sort of gone on strike here. With the police openly refusing to do their jobs, they've basically invited the criminals to break anything they want. It's a very cynical move to change the discussion away from police misconduct to the need to cops to come and break heads so that we have law and order. Hence, a lot of businesses are putting up plywood. What else are they supposed to do? The Minneapolis police have basically invited criminals to have at us. Maybe they're saying, light 'em up. It's really bad and a little scary. We're being policed by a force with cold contempt for the city and its people. The arrest of Derek Chauvin, the cop who kneeled on George Floyd's neck, is a good first step, but it's only a baby step. We need to fire a lot of police officers in order to create a policing model that actually works to protect the city residents. Creating a truly effective and very different police force will be a long, hard slog of a task. Our local politicians are going to need a lot of support and wind at their sails if they attempt it. Let's begin. Great thread about what's going on in Minnesota, especially in the police department. Michael J. Casey from Coinbase writes, "It doesn't matter what you think about or who's right or wrong. If your community doesn't trust its police, it can't function as a cohesive society. How do we rebuild trust? It's the only question that matters. And the first thing comes from the officers, right? When the officer breaks off and starts shooting rubber bullets at the journalist, you have to stop them. When the commander of your brigade says it's okay to open fire on citizens who are standing on their porch instead of walking over to them and asking them nicely to go inside, you're part of it. You're making the trust worse. When you're like the officer in Flint, Michigan, the sheriff who walked with the people, you're making the trust better. If you're like the officers I've heard, at least in San Francisco, who have been ordered that their first task is to protect the protesters, you're making it better. But everyone has to work together to make it better. Otherwise, it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. And much like with negative thoughts, there's that kind of, positive negative thought idea. A negative thought is actually more powerful than a positive thought, right? It's faster, it's quicker, it's evil, all that stuff they talked about in Star Wars. The dark path is the easy way, right? So you actually have to have strength to go down the right path. It's easy to go down the wrong path, to go to the power, to hit people, to shoot people, to light them up. It's hard to go down the other path. It's hard to go down the path of empathy and understanding what it's like for other people. Even now, I have empathy for the police. I know they're in a bad situation. I know they're poorly trained. They're afraid. They're badly taught. And the situation around them is out of control. But at its heart, if they really want to solve the pollution, solve the problem and make it better, if they want to be part of the positive change, they have to stop doing this, because every single act makes it worse. And, you have people like me, never been in trouble, all that kind of thing. I don't trust them anymore, right? And if I don't trust them, and there's thousands and hundreds of others like me, and obviously many people didn't trust them to begin with, which is totally fair too. How are they ever going to get those people back? How are they ever going to get us back? Jeff Berkovey puts out a nice point here. He says, boy, you'd think a country that can equip every cop like a soldier could equip every doctor like a doctor. And it is pretty embarrassing. A lot of this equipment was left over from the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. And instead of retiring it and getting money back or just smashing it up like you should do with weapons, they sold it or gave it to the local police. That's where it came from. So you have things like in New Hampshire, where they have a little community of libertarians up there in Keene, New Hampshire. My friend Derek J. lives there. And they have a Bearcat. They have an armored personnel carrying vehicle, usually used for war zones like Iraq and other things like that. It's up armored. And they have one of those there for community policing and for patrolling and whatever. And for every Bearcat and for every one of these SWAT officers with the creepy helmets and the scary shields and the big armor, they would be better off doing community policing. They'd be better off having the guy walk around door to door, shake the hand of every merchant, shake the hand of some people on the streets. Like I imagine they do in England, having the bobbies walk around the block, having kind of a cop on each block, having them be friends with the people rather than their enemy, so that if they felt they were in trouble, they could go to him or her for help, right? That's what the police are for, to help individual citizens. It's not a military force designed to protect the police at all costs. Those guys in New York who just sacrificed their jobs and their careers and their integrity and their lives so that they could try to run people over to save their cars. It's not what it's about. Like, yes, it's sad you lose a police car. No doubt the cops are going to make fun of you and stuff. But this other one, the running over people, we're never going to forget that. Never. So the story tonight in Minneapolis, perhaps because I follow many journalists, is media getting shot with rubber bullets, gassed, and arrested as they get between protesters and police. Many media were terrified of the mayhem without police presence the last 2 nights. So be careful what you wish for, right? They wanted a police presence. They wanted more law and order, and the police attacked the journalist. Great. Great idea, guys. If you want to make this thing go longer, keep doing that. Law enforcement seem to not understand protocol around ignoring media. Media seem to be confident that they can go wherever they want because of their press credentials. I think there's legitimate confusion going on here on both sides. I think it's only on one side. I think that the law enforcement should have been trained how to handle this and should not be attacking innocent press. That's all there is. Here's the close-up of the New York police officers running over those people at the barricade. He's making the noise louder. He's trying to scare them with the noise. His technology, his technological prowess here. Here comes his buddy. unbelievable there's a human being driving that car. There's a human being driving that car, probably has kids and a wife, family, dog. And at this point, he's so scared. And again, you get out and run. You abandon your police vehicle. The second police vehicle, you also abandon it. This is the cost of 2 cars, right? And I know they're cop cars. They're nice, so they're a little bit more. And they got a shotgun in them. They got all kinds of other gear. It's a shame to give up all that gear, all that stuff. Why even stop? Why even stop at this point? If you've made the decision to drive over people like a psychopath, why even stop? Why not just keep, like, if you thought this was going to solve your problem, like clearly dude's in a problem here. Conundrum, right? Classic troubles here. Why even stop? I mean, you don't care. Just keep going. So yeah, that guy's out of there. He's gone. He's running. But there it is. There's the close-up. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez writes, New York police officers just drove an SUV into a crowd of human beings. They could have killed them, and we don't know how many they injured. No one gets to slam an SUV through a crowd of human beings. New York City Mayor, these officers need to be brought to justice, not dismissed with internal reviews. And once again, when you do this kind of shit, when the police do this, it makes this last longer. We had an issue in Minnesota of one man being killed, and then that's horrible. But that is just one man. Now we have all these journalists being assaulted. We have these people shot on their porch in Minnesota with paintballs, and then now we have this in New York City. Listen to that fear. Listen how he's running the siren over and over again because he's afraid. Fear, fear, fear. What am I going to do? Oh, if I lose the cop car and I go back to base without the cop car, oh, I'm going to have to run. Maybe I'm a little heavy. I can't run good. So what am I going to do? What a half second, huh? What a half second where it like lurches forward like a theme park ride. You've got to figure, how long does he put his foot on the accelerator here? Like clearly, you've put it into drive. Your partner's right next to you. He should be screaming, what the hell are you doing? Slamming you, hitting you, maybe pulling a gun on you, right? What the hell are you doing? Why are you're gonna run over civilians? This is gonna last forever. Like, they're filming us, you idiot. Like, there's cameras everywhere. Everyone has a camera in the street now, you fool. And so, yeah, for about a second, this guy decides, he's like, F it. Like, F protesters. F people in my way. And then he lurches forward. So for about a second there, he puts the accelerator on. Looks like maybe it goes up to 10, 15. It goes, vroom. Nice big forward jump. And then you got to figure he realizes what he's done. His entire life is over. His job is gone. His family's gone. His friends are gone. His community's gone. Not even his mother's going to like him after this. His mother's going to see the video and be like, yeah, I remember Jimmy was a New York police officer, and we were so proud of him. We were so just honored and proud. Join the force, protect the people. Boom! He just ran into people. So Nazis in Charlottesville, whatever, and now police officers in New York City running human beings over with cars. So if you were protesting previously in New York City based upon solidarity with Curtis Floyd and with the murdered man, now you have your own thing to protest for. Now we have more officers to ask for. This is getting worse. It's getting much worse. CNN still tries to cover their ass. Video appears to show NYP police truck plowing through crowd during protest. Well, appears to show is not quite correct. The video shows it, and there's multiple angles. Come on, guys. We all want to protect the police officers here and all that, and they're doing their job and such, but Nope. Over in Seattle, several cars were set on fire, including police and transit visits. This is what could have happened there in New York City. If the officer had just left his car, it would have just been burned. And yeah, that's $50,000, $80,000 loss. That's a significant loss for the city. But instead, we have this video of police trying to run protesters over. And this is just going to go on and on and on. So here's protesters breaking windows at 6th and Olive in Seattle. Again, are these really protesters? It looks like a hammer or a crowbar. Why'd you bring a hammer or a crowbar to a peaceful protest? You knew that you were going to want to smash windows. They made decisions here. Look, he doesn't have the black shirt, but other than that, he's banging away, smashing windows. What good are you doing? Especially windows, man. Like, this just makes glass everywhere on the street. People are going to cut themselves. See, this guy's got a little baton. The other guy brought just a working hammer. These are not protesters. This is not part of the other thing. This doesn't help anything. This isn't a police building. It looks like it. I don't know what it is. It says MDI in the background. But I don't think you're going to get anything by just smashing this and smashing stuff. And it would be great if we could arrest or stop these people because they make the normal protesters look bad. California has declared a state of emergency in Los Angeles County. The governor has authorized assistance after receiving a request from the city and will be deploying members of the National Guard to help disperse protests. Here's a protest from Los Angeles. This is the luxury stores of Rodeo Drive. The protesters and the cameraman are being hit with tear gas.
It happened at Rodeo Drive.
It is, okay, we got Carlos in Beverly Hills.
We're getting hit by tear gas.
Oh, dear. Okay.
He doesn't have it. That surgeon mask's not going to work at all.
Tear gas.
Those glasses aren't going to work at all.
Tear gas. You can see it over there.
Should walk away from it.
It happened at Rodeo Drive and Santa Monica. Oh, I got to stop because I can barely, I can't even keep my eyes open. But yeah, we saw people running toward us, and there you see the cloud of smoke. I'm sorry, but the tear gas just hit us.
It is, okay, we got Carlos in Beverly Hills.
You got to have big masks for that. It can't just do that with glasses. They'll do better tomorrow. These are sad photos from Philadelphia, from their protest there. Open a new tab here. There's a burning police car, a burning Starbucks. There's a statue that's been destroyed and written on. And there's a burning car in the street from Philadelphia. The city of brotherly love. This is Denver. 7 minutes after curfew, cops in Denver flooded the area with tear gas. How is this possibly necessary? And would we ever see that at other constitutionally gatherings that went past their authorized time? So once again, there wasn't a problem in Denver. The problem was in Minneapolis, in Minnesota. But now officers in Denver have acted overzealously, shot tear gas at the protesters before the curfew ended, and now the protesters have a reason to come back. You've made it personal. Just like I was talking about the Iraq and the Afghanistan wars, really any war. If you bomb someplace, kill a bunch of civilians, or collateral damage, as they like to call them, everybody knows them. They're everybody's brother and sister, everybody's cousin and mother and son and daughter, and you killed them. So now they're jihadis. Right here in Denver, we didn't have a radicalized crowd. We had a peaceful crowd. You just shot them with tear gas for no reason. You radicalized them. Every time the police officers do this, they make the riots and they make this situation last longer. Let's take a look at what happened in Denver. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At least 5, maybe 6 tear gas canisters. We see 2 being thrown back. There's at least 2 on the ground. This is not a police department. This is a military. There's nothing police about this. They're not helping anyone. They started early. They used excessive tear gas. And now the Denver police chief needs to be fired, right? Now we have to track down the Denver police chief. We have to track down the New York City police chief. We have to track down whoever ordered those officers in Minneapolis in the suburbs to fire on those people on their porch. We could just sit here all day and play this violent video that the police have given to us. Surely, you know, I'm on the side of the protesters and all that. Like, I support peaceful protest. But they just gave up the whole scene here. They are, unless they're idiots and they're losing on purpose and they want more chaos and they want to destroy America, and, you know, that benefits certain countries. It certainly doesn't benefit America. If you wanted these things to end, you wouldn't do this. And another part of it, maybe they're just excited. They've got all their military weapons. They haven't had a good ride in Denver in a while. So they're excited to get out there and shoot the tear gas. And, you know, Jimmy got a little overzealous with the tear gas there, boss. You know, no, there's no reason for this. This is defeating. You're defeating yourself here. It's really unbelievable to see a group like the police who had the moral authority, right? They had the authority. We respected them. They interacted with our communities. When you're in trouble, you would call them, right? That was the idea. When you're in trouble, you call the police. Who would call these people? And then this is city after city, state after state. Doesn't even have anything to do with Minneapolis and the original guys. Here we are, downtown Sacramento, my home for a long time, and no doubt again. Went to school there and stuff. This looks like K Street. It's got the tracks on it. And look right there. Does that look like your friendly police, or does that look like a gang of military taking over the streets coming at you? Does that look peaceful or fearful? Get ready. So, I mean, these officers here with the bicycles, they look like police officers. They look like if you were in trouble, you could go talk to them. Like they would help you out. Who the heck are these guys? Who the heck do they work for? Who gave them these armored boots, right? Who gave them these helmets? Who thought this was a good idea? We knew what was going to happen. We've been talking about for years that military weapons after the Iraq and Afghanistan war, surplus supplies, instead of being destroyed or resold so that other people could fight and kill themselves, were given. First they were grants, then they were loans, and they just gave them the things to the police. So, of course, the police are like, oh, yeah, we can have armored personnel cars, and we can have helmets and up-armored, crazy boots. This guy in the center right here has these crazy up-armored boots that I'm looking at. It looks like he's worried about people hitting him in the knees or the legs. He's going to get very into the combat here. But once you give them to them, they use them. And especially when you give them military weapons like this, they think they're soldiers. Light them up. Those are civilians you're supposed to be protecting. Yes, they're on their porch. Yes, it's against the rules. You should go over and talk to them nicely. Instead, they scream at them like guttural voices and then say, light them up, and just start shooting at the people they're supposed to protect. Right here, they're working in large forces like gangs. They look more like a street gang taking over the street than the police coming to help people. And this just makes it longer. This makes it never end. Dallas police just fired tear gas at a peaceful protest at the Eric Johansen Central Library. Again, this is Dallas. So there wasn't a problem in Dallas. Now there's a problem in Dallas. Like, we didn't have a specific issue. You gave them a specific issue. The police are giving this away. This is going to go on for weeks, right? It's not going to end. Every night, as they have more violence, there's going to be more counter protests to the violence. And then eventually it's going to just get violent. And like the guy said yesterday on Twitter, there's maybe 800 cops in Minnesota. There's 500,000 people at least. 800 cops, 500,000 people. I don't care how good your weaponry is, your military, your ammo, whatever you got. You're going to get stomped. the 500,000 people are going to stomp you. What they did to that police precinct, it's going to happen everywhere. Like, there aren't more police than there are people, right? I hate to tell you guys this. There's less of you. Like, yeah, you got shields, you got tasers, like you tear gas these guys. Look at these big yellow tasers here. They got big shields. This guy's got the armored boots. Seems like it's an optional. This guy's got armored boots. This lady here doesn't have armored boots. She's at a disadvantage. You got to wear your shin guards if you're going to play soccer. Come on. But yeah, look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have 7 people in your line. Look right here. There's like 100 people here. Like, they're being nice. But even with just their civilian shoes and their bones and their feet and their fists, you have 7 people. You have like maybe 20, right? Hundreds. Just keep shooting tear gas at the peaceful protesters. Just keep escalating this, right? Just keep escalating until there's a response. And then we're going to report on them stomping a bunch of police. And just like this, we're going to have video. And I don't know that it's going to be the protesters' fault or the rioters' fault or the looters' fault or whatever. I think it's going to be the police's fault. I think they've reacted to this very badly. Either they are not trained, or they've received bad training, or they've received impartial training, or they're not getting updates in their training, or it's not working, or the job's so horrible they can't do the job anymore, and they're not man enough to say, hey, I hate everybody. I started this job, and I was open-minded, and I loved everybody, but I've seen so much terrible shit that I hate everyone now, and I don't think I should be a policeman anymore. They don't have the strength to say that. Instead, they go out there and smash people, and they get their jollies. You're not fit to be a police officer anymore. If you're smashing people and laughing about it, you're not fit to be a police officer anymore. You're actually causing more problems. As I said before, Twin City mayors and the Minnesota governor have been walking back comments about out-of-state protesters. This is an attempt to make it seem like it's outside people, like it's not the people of Minnesota protesting. But as we've seen, the people of Dallas are protesting. The people of New York are protesting. The people of Sacramento, Las Vegas, everywhere are protesting. It's not just this thing, you know. This is a right-wing talking point where you can say, all the troubles from out of state, these aren't the local people. And then you can say that, oh, it's not happening everywhere else. It's only happening there because of these mean, nasty, out-of-state people. But what kind of idiots are we? We just watched protests from Dallas, from New York, Detroit, Philadelphia. I mean, they're protesting everywhere, you idiots. Everywhere. Joe Biden asks a nation furious at injustice to restrain from violence. Meanwhile, impeached President Donald Trump was silent. President Trump called George Floyd and his family on the phone. George Floyd's brother, who might be a twin or something, looks exactly like him, says that Trump didn't give me an opportunity to even speak during the phone call. Ooh, I don't like that. And again, this impeached President Trump just can't do the little things right. He can't emote. He doesn't have any emotions. He's not a person. So it's a big problem, and it continues to be a big problem. Whenever they need something human, something emotional, he falls flat on his face because he doesn't have any. I've never heard of this before. I've never heard of I guess there was another Trump incident where the family was not happy to talk to him, but he didn't even give him an opportunity to speak. Remember when Russia invaded Ukraine and they took part of their land? That's why they got kicked out of the G8 at the time, now the G7. They invaded their neighbor and took their land. I know no one remembers World War II, but World War II pretty much started when Hitler invaded former German territory, the Sudetenland. Then he invaded Austria, kind of former German territory. Then he invaded Poland, right? And then everyone knew. They're like, oh, we went too far. You know, Chamberlain allowed him too much latitude. Meanwhile, President Trump seems to have completely forgotten that just 6 years ago, 2014, Russia, Putin, invaded Ukraine, their neighbor, and took land from them. International law prohibits the acquisition of part or all of another state's territory through coercion or force. To do so violates the principles upon which the international system is built. We condemn the illegal referendum held in Crimea, and it goes on to say they also condemn Russians' actions in taking the territory. Trump's now joking about just letting Russia back in because it's been 6 years. What a joke. And again, the obvious explanation. I know you try to think and nothing happens, and it hurts. Who does he work for again? He's trying to get Russia back into the G7. They just invaded Ukraine 6 years ago. They haven't had a change in leadership. Same people are still in power. It's just insane. And they're going to try to sneak it by while all this other stuff's happening. So just pay no attention. Pay no attention. Coronavirus sinks U.S. consumer spending. Savings hits a record high. And this is what I've been talking about. You can't just open the economy if there is no demand. If the virus is still out there, people are not going to go out and spend money. Also, people don't feel safe to spend money right now. Consumer spending, wasting money that you don't have, credit card spending, buying new clothes. What does that have to do with a virus that's going to kill us? Why do I want to go shopping to get a new shirt or whatever when there's a virus that could kill us? Why do I want to go to any store ever again? Why do I ever want to be in a packed group of people all breathing, spreading virus together, right? Until the virus is gone, demand will not return. If demand does not return, it doesn't matter if you open your business, right? You open your business and no one comes in the door. Doesn't matter. You can start as soon as you want. You have to kill the virus first. And we're not killing the virus. We're actually out really spreading it at these protests. I've seen a lot of protesters wearing masks, and I respect them a lot for that. Also, it's great because it blocks facial recognition technology. So a win-win on the masks. But having that many people cramped in together, all it takes is one person sneezing, coughing, breathing, droplets from their mouth spreading into other people's mouths. I'm worried to see what happens with this thing. Remember this great moment from yesterday? Already forgotten. Already forgotten. The coronavirus began spreading in the United States much sooner than we thought. Interesting evidence now showing that perhaps as early as January or even December, there were already cases of the coronavirus spreading in the United States. This one's sad. This one makes me sad. The guy's name is Ismail Sabor, and he writes, well, my 8-year-old finally asked what's going on, and I tried to explain things for an 8-year-old. Then he said, Daddy, are we going back to being slaves? This has been a tough week. Are we going back to being slaves? Man, that's tough. John Cusack, one of my favorite actors. I love that movie High Fidelity and Say Anything and so much more. Respect to John Cusack. He stood with the protesters. He went out in the street last night in Chicago. He's on a bike. I'm not sure if it's a motorcycle or a bicycle. But here's what the police do to famous celebrated actor John Cusack, who's not a threat to anyone.
Get your boy down here now! Get out of here! Get your boy down here now! Get out of here! Let's go! Let's go! Get out of here! Get out of here! Get your boy down here!
And again, who are they winning over with this? Scaring me and John Cusack to death. Who are you winning over? Right? Chicago. They all know him there. And again, even if he was just some random guy, you can't treat someone like that, just screaming at them. Like, it freaked him out. It slowed him down. It didn't help anything. And again, you just add all these up. Each one of these new police brutality cases or police overreaction cases is just another spread of the virus of hate. And we just have to roll them all back now. So every officer who went after somebody now has to be rolled back. Here's a compilation. Hopefully it doesn't include the Dallas video. We're going to watch it. Anyway, there's the NYPD video. And again, this just sets back the whole thing. There's a girl being pushed down. There's a guy being pushed down. Oh, look at that. And that was another girl probably that got pushed down. New York police. Good job, guys. Oh, they're running people over with horses. I've heard about this, but not seen it. Spraying people at close range. Again, every one of these spreads 100 times. There's that one from Minnesota. Yeah, we played that one the other day. That was unbelievable. And again, like, we can see your badge number on your car, man. Like, we can see the number on your car. We're going to get you. Like, we know where you were. You're going to lose your job. You're going to lose your family. You're going to lose your friends. Like, why do the police think this is acceptable? We have cameras now. Even when we didn't have cameras, it wasn't acceptable. But now it's even worse because we have cameras, right? Everyone has a camera. Whoa. Whoa, he's just pushing that guy. Shoving him. Pushed him against. Yeah, leave him alone. That's right. There we go. The protesters are starting to fight back against the cops. Look, he's just pushing more random people. Who do they think they're winning? Look, he's spraying people at close range. So cute with it. Just like, ha ha ha, I'll just spray this person. Yep, we showed this one in Louisville. Reloads. Unbelievable. Whoa, just push her with a bike. Just push her with a bike. This is going to get so much worse. This is like day 2, day 3 here. Whoa. It's on the ground now. Anytime an officer curses, they lose. Like, you're not going to win this way. I don't know. I mean, they think they're going to eliminate all the American people. There's a lot more of us than police officers. A lot more. Like, orders of magnitude. It's only today the people are standing back. In a few more days, it won't be like this. They're gonna try to do things like this, and it's not gonna work. Because again, everyone went home and they're all watching the video from yesterday, and they're just as horrified as I am. How does a country that doesn't give people health care give cops tanks? Well, they got a good deal on the tanks, but still, if you accept tanks, you're gonna use tanks. Here we are, Salt Lake City. Again, I've been to a couple of these places. I've been to Minnesota. I've been to Salt Lake City. Nice places, nice people, no problems at all. You know, when I was there, of course, and people are pretty nice to me when I travel and stuff. I'm really fortunate. But okay, get ready for this one. This is another undefendable one. How you treat the least among us. That's how you should treat me. You know? Right now, Salt Lake City. Here on the scene. Also rescue. So there's an older gentleman there. They're pushing him back with his shield. He's having trouble carrying his bags. Here's a much older gentleman carrying a cane. He doesn't have a cane. Look. See it right here. Police officers starting to move some of the crowd. Sadly, a man was just knocked off his feet. Police officers starting to push down elderly human beings in Salt Lake City. Is that a very Mormon thing to do? Is that like a very religious thing to do? I mean, what the hell? Like, we have you on video, guy. Like, we can just make a big list of all the officers who need to be arrested. Officer in Salt Lake City, officers in New York City, officers in Minneapolis. I mean, and it's not even me. There's tons of people that have time to do this and make lists and just say, these are all the officers we need to get. Look at this. Push him again. Push him again. You just knocked over an old guy. How small is your little penis? You just knocked over an old guy. What an asshole. Like, your entire job, your entire life, all the working out, all the books you read, all the studying you did in criminal justice school, and, you know, getting all your promotions and taking your boat out on your weekend with your divorces and getting drunk. And you're just like, just knock over an old guy. Not on accident. He didn't trip on his shoes or anything. Guy pushes him. He pushes him again. And he already pushed all over this guy. And these two old guys, they're not a threat to anybody. And this just makes it last longer. You didn't have a reason to protest in Salt Lake City. They were protesting out of solidarity. They were standing with Curtis Floyd, and they were standing with him. Police officers are supposed to help older people. Police officers are supposed to be part of the community. How can you ever trust police officers again after this? This is Salt Lake City. They don't even have beer. How could you ever trust this again? Monsters. Meanwhile, in Minneapolis, they're firing flashbang grenades directly at MSNBC reporters. So here we go again. They have a camera crew. They have multiple security with them. Guys wearing nice gas masks, sure. They're trying to walk away.
We're still walking. But this is proof.
Boom. You see how close that was? Just one more time. Boom, right there, right like a foot away from someone.
Let's go.
See how fast they run now?
Law enforcement tonight, not taking any chances. Colin, you okay? Okay.
Not taking any chances or just openly attacking civilians and press. Openly attack. Oh, press. That doesn't work for everybody. And yeah, here's the next video. This guy was sheltering at a gas station after shouting press multiple times and raising my press card into the air. I was thrown to the ground. Then another cop came up and pepper sprayed me in the face while I was being held down. Don't believe him? Don't take his word for it? Let's watch the video. And again, officers, every time you do this, you make the riot longer. Every time you do this, you increase the possibility for the protesters to have had enough. And we'll be there in a few days. Press. This guy hasn't seen what I've seen in Hong Kong. He doesn't know what's going to happen.
I'm pressed.
I don't care. Get down.
Okay, I'm down.
He complies. Gets down.
Okay. Thank you. I am pressed. Please.
In the United States of America, I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. Oh, I forgot it
I was
already.
just sprayed in the face with pepper spray.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Currently have my head on the ground.
of the United States of America and to the republic
Okay.
for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I am pressed. Please. I am pressed. Please. I'm pressed.
I'm press.
I am press.
I have a camera. You fucking moron.
I don't care. Get down.
I don't care. Get down. He complies. If he had stood up, would they have pepper sprayed him? If he complies, would they have pepper sprayed him? Is there a way to win this? Now, again, the other officers are talking about this. They're like, he claims to be press. That one there with the camera and the press pass claims to be press. Obviously, there's been a lot of, secret agents sneaking into the country, pretending to be press, so on and so forth. And again, with a camera, they can do a lot of damage. They can film a lot of things. He talks to his buddy. They say that one's press. And his buddy comes over and sprays him while he's on the ground. Even if he wasn't press, you can't spray people while they're on the ground, right? This only makes the riot go longer. If you were concerned about police officers being hurt, and I think we're going to be concerned about that here in a few days, maybe tonight, this makes it worse. This makes more police officers hurt. This hurts the people you're trying to protect. This ends your ability to police the community. No one's going to trust you. No one's going to testify for you. No one's going to call you in. People are going to go back to handling their problems their own way, which is going to lead to more violence. Every time this happens, they make the riots longer.
I am press. Please.
That was close range, too. That hurts a lot more.
I was just sprayed in the face with pepper spray. Currently have my head on the ground.
Get up, get in your car.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, we need more dollars now.
What you do to the least among us, you do unto me. Another message from impeached President Donald Trump. The National Guard has been released in Minneapolis to do the job the Democratic mayor couldn't do. Should have just been used 2 days ago, and there would not have been damage, and police headquarters would not have been taken over and ruined. Again, it's all about the stuff that has value. People don't have value. Great job by the National Guard. No games. Released. Like the National Guard is a pack of wolves ready to be released on the American people. Why are we funding a pack of wolves to be released on us? This is a democracy, right? This is a republic. Released. And this is why we shouldn't give it so much of a fuck about stuff. This is the CNN sign outside of their building in Atlanta. It's already been repainted. Whereas, as the author of the tweet says, black people die and never come back. That moment before the New York police officer ran over those people with a barricade, his integrity is never coming back. He's going to lose his job. He's going to lose his family. He's going to lose his friends. He's going to lose his community. All from that terrible decision to run people over with a car as a police officer. Because he didn't want to lose his car. So he left his car behind. The protesters smashed it up and burned it. He would have been made fun of later by the police officers. They're cruel. So he had to run those people over in the streets. But it's just stuff. Doesn't matter. Protests in Erie, Pennsylvania. Cops just kicking a girl over. What you do to the weakest among us, you do to me. You say, what would Jesus do? It's awful. So a photographer with CBS Minnesota, he was arrested and struck by a rubber bullet while covering the protests. Once again, the more cruel you are to press, and it's sad because, I mean, I watch a lot of the Hong Kong stuff, and I was, helping out and everything, and the police officers in China learned this. They learned that everyone has a camera on the street, and if you're mean and rude and you hit them and you shoot them, they're just going to find out about it the next day. But police in America are apparently just complete morons. Even the other guys on the line, if you have one psychopath among you, the weakest link is all anyone's ever going to remember about you. All we're going to know about Erie, Pennsylvania is that they kicked that girl over. All we know about the NYPD is they run over people with cars. All of the good things they've done, all the times they help people, all the times they run in and risked their lives and did good things for people, that all goes away. It's all gone. Where do I go? There it is. They're engaging.
That's a WCCO car. Okay. Joan, get over here. Joan, I just get my producer.
See how scared he sounds. Telling his fellow team to get out of there. Oh. Now they're arresting the press.
Okay. I'm not fighting. Go.
That's all we're going to remember about you. You're teaching everyone not to trust the police. You're destroying your ability to do your normal job because you're having so much fun playing soldier in the street. These are not enemies. These are not enemy combatants. This is not a war zone. This is the same country you live in. These are the same people you go to the grocery store with. This is terrible, terrible decisions by the police officers.
Okay. I'm not fighting.
And again, we're going to find out tonight how terrible these decisions were. And it's going to make their job so much harder. And it's going to get so much worse. In less than 1 week, the U.S. military went from doing flyovers for healthcare workers to shooting them. And this is a reporter interviewing a Minneapolis nurse who was working at the medical tent treating a man bleeding badly from a rubber bullet wound. Military police opened fire on the nurses, storming their tent. The nurse stayed at her post. She said, "I told him I wouldn't leave him. I feel so bad." It looks like she did have to leave eventually. Here's an interview with a Minneapolis nurse who was attacked by law enforcement. Again, just idiocy.
I just wanted to say I was working the medic tent. I'm a CNA PCA. I'm trained in first aid. I haven't done it in a while, and I was helping a man who got shot in the leg with a rubber bullet. He was bleeding so much.
You saw this?
I was helping him. I was cutting his pants. I was trying to help him. I was trying to look at the wound, and they came up and they were shooting right at us. He grabbed a garbage can to hold it over me so I wouldn't get hurt. And I told him I wouldn't leave him, and I did, and I feel so bad. I couldn't. They were shooting. I was scared. They didn't care. They didn't care that he was hurt.
So he was shot by a rubber bullet?
Yes, he was bleeding so much. He was in so much pain.
But you did what you could.
I didn't have time. I did my best.
Okay. I want you guys to be safe here as well. And I don't know, we see people coming.
Someone's hurt.
And someone's hurt over there. They're carrying them.
Yeah, you may want to clear. And Maxie, you know what? Maxie, you may want to leave the area. Go here.
I just want.
What a nice lady. How horrible. Let's watch it again.
To say I was working the medic tent. I'm a CNA PCA. I'm trained in first aid. I haven't done it in a while, and I was helping a man who got shot in the leg with a rubber bullet. He was bleeding so much.
You saw this?
I was helping him. I was cutting his pants. I was trying to help him. I was trying to look at the wound, and they came up and they were shooting right at us. He grabbed a garbage can to hold it over me so I wouldn't get hurt. And I told him I wouldn't leave him, and I did, and I feel so bad. I couldn't. They were shooting. I was scared. They didn't care. They didn't care that he was hurt.
So he was shot by a rubber bullet?
Yes, he was bleeding so much. He was in so much pain.
But you did what you could.
I didn't have time. I did my best.
Okay. I want you guys to be safe here as well. And I don't know, we see people coming.
Someone's hurt.
And someone's hurt over there. They're carrying them.
Yeah, you may want to clear. And Maxie, you know what? Maxie, you may want to leave
some of the
here
emotion
too.
of it tonight.
Look how awesome she was. How amazing that this lady is. She's trying to help the one guy. The police bust in and start shooting. And again, they're completely lost in their heads. Right? This is a video game that's going on in their heads. They think they're soldiers. And they think that these people, these human beings who pay their salaries, whose communities they're supposed to be a part of, you're not just an avenging angel that comes into a community and shoots it up. You're supposed to go back there the next day and police them. And they're supposed to come to you with their problems. And they're supposed to report things to you. And they're supposed to see you as a person that's on their side, at the very least an impartial third party who can stop feuds, who can stop fights between families. But then they burst into a medical tent. And you know what a medical tent looks like. They know what a medical tent looks like. There's no language barrier. And they see someone trying to help someone, and they shoot them with rubber bullets again. And this poor girl wanted to stay with the guy and do good first aid and help him. And she couldn't. She had to run. She was scared. Every time they do this, it makes it longer. Every time they do it, it makes it worse. David Wallace Wells writes, "At the level of national leadership, there is not just a vacuum, or worse, in the White House. There is a vacuum in the Democratic Party." He means Republican Party? I'm not sure. "The failure of mayors has been especially horrifying, with San Francisco's London Breed, perhaps the only mayor of a large American city, explicitly instructing her police force to work exclusively to protect protesters." And that's what you have to do. Those are the people that they're there working for. It's the protesters. And that's how you end this. If there wasn't all these other horrible events everywhere else, you'd think the protests in San Francisco would be less because they'd been kind to the people there, not given them more reasons to do this. Here we are. I think this might have been before in the afternoon from yesterday. Beverly Hills, 20,000 people strong in the streets. And there's going to be more now that the police have just been going after everyone, now that they've been motivating people to join this. Here's more inappropriate policing from the Minneapolis police. They slashed every tire on this rental car. And they also say, I don't know if the video is going to show us, that they also slashed the other tires in the rental car lot. These are police officers. Look, yeah, flat, flat, flat. And again, now people can't go home. So if your goal was to get people to leave the protest, now they can't leave. They're actually supposed to be defending against the destruction of property. We saw earlier how much a New York police officer valued his car over the lives of people in the street. And that's what they're going to say at his trial. Say, why did you value your car over human beings' lives? Why are they doing this? Contact and safe capture confirmed. The astronauts have just arrived at the International Space Station, completing a 19-hour transit from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Congratulations to SpaceX and NASA and the astronauts. Totally agree with this Twitter user here. I gotta be honest, the worst looting I've ever seen place happened a few weeks ago when corporations collected over $500 billion in stimulus money while everyone else was left with a $1,200 check and having to decide if they pay for food or for rent. And we did it. We made it through the news. We survived. So there's going to be more violence in the streets tonight. Nothing that happened today makes me think there's going to be less violence. It's a weekend, so they can't charge those other 3 cops. Courts don't work on the weekends. Sure, they could call people in. It's kind of an emergency. But they're not going to charge the other 3 police officers, at least today. And now we've seen many more acts of police brutality from different officers in different states and different cities. And in each one of those states and cities, the people affected by that violence now know about it and now are going to be out in the force and now have a personal issue to deal with as well. So that's going to make it worse. President didn't say anything at all yesterday. He kept just talking about the SpaceX thing, which I agree it was great and it was exciting and I want to get behind it. And all those engineers working together and all the problems that they solved, big and small, how they came together as a team, top of the line, bottom of the line, people that make this stuff, people that build the stuff, astronauts that ride the thing, people that get them ready. Like everyone worked as a team to make that launch perfect. And that was certainly the highest achievement of mankind on one hand. And then on the other hand, you have this bizarre thing that keeps happening where the police officers put on military equipment and think that they're soldiers and then go out into the street and attack the people they work for. And they destroy their ability to police their communities and they destroy the trust of the police in their communities. And certainly it started with the murder of an African-American man in the street, putting his knee on his neck for 9 minutes until he died. And that was horrible. And now these other things are horrible, and they're not quite at the point of taking someone's life, but we might be there tonight. There are reports of there was like 7 protesters shot in one city already. There's 1 protester who was shot and killed. So there has been full loss of life in addition to all the horrifying things we showed you today. Don't have an update for the Dallas shopkeeper. Let me see if we can find that. Does look like he might have been killed 11 hours ago, stoned. Rioters hurl rocks at store owner. Severely attacked. I'm not seeing any really fresh news on this, any new information. 3 hours ago, TMZ. Let's see what they've got. Don't want to see it. Let's see. The man was taken by hospital to an ambulance where he's currently in stable condition. So that's better than it was yesterday. Yesterday they said he was in critical condition, which is really, really bad. So it does seem like the man who defended his business in Dallas may have lived through the beating. So that's a positive note to end on. I can take that. So we already did 2 hours. I don't think we're going to do any big books or do any more readings or anything. I don't feel like it. And it was the best of times. It was the worst of times. We launched rocket ships into space. We sent astronauts to the International Space Station on a commercial rocket built by a private company. We saved the launch vehicle. We went to the International Space Station, a floating platform in outer space that allows human beings to live and work in outer space. We sent the capsule there. The computer drove it there perfectly. The capsule confirmed, docked with the station. And then all that other stuff happened. So let's be careful out there. Let's, I don't know. You can stay home. You can go out if you want. It's up to you. I can't make that choice for you. I do think protesting in the daytime is probably better. Protesting in the nighttime does seem to lead towards riots and looting and chaos. It's just something about the nighttime. Remember there's that great scene at the end of 2001, Not Quite a Space Odyssey, where they said that basically something strange happened in the solar system. Let's not focus on it. But now there were two suns. And with these two suns, there would never be darkness again on the planet Earth. There would be light all the time, and that this darkness that caused our fear would go away. Now, sure, having two suns on the Earth would kill all of the plants, and we'd be wiped out in weeks. But it was a nice idea at the end of a goofy movie, that if we had no more darkness, perhaps there wouldn't be so much darkness inside of us. And I think about these police officers, and I think about what went wrong with their training, what went wrong with the horrible job they have to do, maybe what went wrong inside their heads, why they did this. But if they were the enemy before, they murdered the man in the street, and now they've done much, or not worse, but they've done other horrible things in many different places, inciting the riots more, creating the condition for more violence. So, stay safe. If you go to one of these things, go to one of these things to help people. Be the positive change. Be the person in Las Vegas who said, don't smash up the courthouse. This is not how we protest. Be the person on that CNN video who said he doesn't want it to be this way, and he doesn't want it to be a crime to be black, and that he's tired of it, and he's had enough, and he's nonviolent. Be the people who showed up to that early protest with the milk, and they put the milk in people's eyes to help them get over the pepper spray that the police had shot at them, or the tear gas. Be the help. Be the positive change. We know this is going to last longer. We don't know how and when it's going to end. It's going to end at some point. Let's be on the positive side when it's end. Let's have done some good. Thanks to everybody for watching. Please give us a thumbs up and a share. Subscribe down below. Hit the bell for notifications. This is a crypto channel. We do normally talk about Bitcoin. When things are more important than Bitcoin, I feel that we should talk about them because they're more important. Most days, I think Bitcoin's the most important thing. Recently, I thought that the coronavirus was more important, and I now think that the police brutality in the streets is more important. So we're talking about that too. It's a free country, free speech and all that, and relatively open platform on YouTube and all that. So that's what we're doing. I still like Bitcoin. I still like crypto, but when other things are happening, I feel we have to pay attention to those too. We can't. I've never been one for this idea that you should just stick to your discipline. I've always found that the disciplines were interconnected, and that's actually when you do the most learning and you have the most value, I think, and when the kind of training that you do get at school does really kick in and it does help you. Trying to find something positive to end on. One of my nicest moments in college was I was studying in English literature. We were reading books from around the time period of the French Revolution, like the literature books that they would have been reading, A Man in the Street. And at the same time, in one of my other history classes, we were studying the French Revolution. So by studying it at a macro level as a historian, and studying it at a micro level as a reader of English literature and French literature in this case, certainly, it really came together for me. I was able to see what it was like in the streets and what it was like, in Napoleon's house. I felt like I could see both. And that's when the disciplines came together for me, and history and English united. And The same thing with science. You can see that if you were reading about NASA and reading about maybe how Kennedy launched the space program and how the politicians did it. And then on the other hand, you could read about the science and how they actually built the rockets, and that you could bring science and history together in that way, in the way that I brought English and history together when I was reading those books. So I think there is a reason for people of different disciplines to go over and look at disciplines. In the Richard Feynman book, Feynman talked about, he was a physicist, and he talked about how at one point he went over and he was hanging out with biologists, and he did a biology project, and his unique and creative mind allowed him to see things that the other biologists hadn't seen because of the way they'd been taught. And he kind of broke through. And I'm not going to say he had a major scientific discovery when he was going on vacation in biology land, but he kind of did. He really did write a heck of a biology paper. He co-authored it with them, and he really thought about things that they hadn't thought of. And then he went back to physics because he loved physics, and that was his love. So no, get out of your box. There's no reason that you just have to know one thing, or maybe you're a police officer and you're watching this and you're disgusted by it and you want to quit your job, and that's okay too. And maybe you're a protester and you think it's a bad idea to go out there or a good idea to go out there, or you want to help people or you don't want to help people. But yeah, we've got to get out of our boxes. We've got to think holistically. We have to look at the entire problem. We have to be able to have empathy, both for the protesters and for the police officers, no matter how bad the things they do are. We have to try to understand them from their perspective, and still, punish, still, say that it's wrong, stand up for it's wrong. So I don't know. I think that's about it. It seems like we got about 60 people watching on YouTube, and that's awesome. Thanks so much for watching us and giving us a thumbs up and share. Even if you don't agree, I know there's a lot of stuff in the chat. People don't agree with me, and that's fine too. Everyone should think what they want to think. But thanks for joining us. We try to do these shows every day at 9 a.m. Pacific time. We've got a lot of other good shows on the World Crypto Network. Check it out. We did the Bitcoin group just a couple days ago. Same kind of thing with the Bitcoin group. Bitcoin's the most important thing to me, but right now it's not. So we had to talk about some serious political issues and stuff. We're not afraid to do that. It's not outside of our box. Everything's in our box. The whole world's in our box. So do good things, do better, help people, make the world a better place, try to have empathy, and let's get through this. It's Sunday. It's still a nice day. Let's go read a book. Let's go watch a movie. Let's watch some TV. There's a lot of good episodic TV these days. Let's do something positive. Let's try to avoid the news for a little bit. I know I'm going to go watch it anyway, but let's try to avoid it for a little bit. Let's try to think about something else. Let's take the dog for a walk. Let's get outside. Let's look at some trees. Think about nature. Think about grass growing. I don't know. Anything but this, right? So thanks so much for joining us. I'm sorry we had to go down such a horrible rabbit hole of negative news and political things. But this is where we are today in America. Police are making horrible decisions in the streets that are going to make the riots and things last longer. People who didn't have a personal reason, a vendetta in this game, now have personal reasons. So we'll see how it goes tonight. It is a Sunday. Maybe people have to go back to work on Monday. But I don't know. I think it's going to be worse. But have to see how it goes. So thanks so much for joining us. The price of Bitcoin was down just 0.35% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 9,515, a high of 9,750, and a low of 9,402. That's $1 for 10,509 Satoshis. Market continues to lean, margin long, 83% heading that direction. Volume was a little high for a weekend, actually, about 5,910 Bitcoins trading hands, and Bitcoin dominance fell just a little bit to 65.98%. Thanks so much for joining us. Until next time, bye.